He who has a reason to live can bear almost any how. Nietzsche did not speak these words to comfort you. He spoke to them to tear away your excuses. Weakness is not fate. It is the absence of a why. Without purpose, every burden feels unbearable. Every wound feels fatal, and every obstacle becomes proof that you are powerless. But the truth you fear to face is this: your weakness survives only because you feed it. You call it tiredness, distraction, bad luck. But at the core, weakness is a decision made in silence. And every day you delay choosing otherwise, you betray yourself. You know this already. Look at your life. How many times have you avoided a challenge, not because it was impossible, but because you had no reason to anchor you? Without a clear why, your mind seeks comfort instead of strength. You chase validation, distraction, anything that feels good in the moment, but leaves you emptier when the night comes. Nietzsche's mirror is merciless. He forces you to admit that weakness is not an accident, but a submission. And you are the one who signed the contract. Weakness spreads like rot. It begins small, a whisper in the mind. It's fine, you can do it later. You believe it, and the whisper grows roots, like mold in the walls of a house, unseen at first, until the foundation crumbles. Imagine a man who once stood tall, shoulders straight, fire in his chest. He begins to compromise. He tolerates what he should confront. He allows neglect, excuses, and fear to multiply. Soon, he does not even notice the weight pressing down on him. His back bends. His eyes lose their fire, and his silence is not strength but defeat. Weakness is not dramatic. It does not roar. It creeps. It waits. And by the time you notice, it has already hollowed you out. But here is the terror and the hope. If weakness is a choice, so is its destruction. If rot spreads, so can fire. In every moment the decision is before you. Continue feeding the disease or strike it with purpose. Nietzsche's words are not philosophy for dusty bookshelves. They are weapons forged in the heat of suffering. He believed that only through confrontation, only through fire, can you rise beyond the ordinary. So I tell you now, in 23 minutes, everything can shift. In 23 minutes, if you choose to face yourself, to stare into the weakness without flinching, you will discover the weapon that has always been buried inside you. This is not about motivation, not about temporary adrenaline. This is about annihilating the illusion that has kept you small. The question is not whether you can do it. The question is whether you are willing to destroy the comfort you have, mistaken for safety. Your weakness is not you. It is the chain you choose to carry. Break it. Comfort is the enemy of greatness. These words may sound cruel, but Nietzsche understood a truth most people never dare to face. The soft pillow, the predictable routine, the easy distraction, all of it pretends to protect you, but in reality it weakens you. False comfort is a cage that does not look like a cage. It feels warm, it feels safe, but its walls grow tighter every day. You scroll through your phone, you repeat the same dull habits, you hide from the storm and convince yourself you are at peace. Yet deep down you know this is not strength, it is surrender. Strength is not found in safety, it is forged in resistance. And every time you choose comfort over challenge, the fire inside you dims a little more. Look closely at your life. How often do you mistake comfort for progress? You think working a job you hate, but tolerating it, means you are responsible. You think staying silent in the face of disrespect means you are wise. You think avoiding risk keeps you secure. But what you call stability is often fear in disguise. Nietzsche wrote that the secret of reaping the greatest fruitfulness and the greatest enjoyment from life is to live dangerously. Not recklessly, but dangerously. meaning fully alive, exposed, daring to lean into discomfort instead of shrinking away. Your routines may protect you from failure, but they also protect you from growth. They protect you from becoming who you truly are. Then there is the illusion of love, the sweetest poison of all. You cling to approval, craving to be liked, to be accepted, to be chosen. You confuse attention for affection and affection for strength. But Nietzsche saw through this herd instinct. He warned that those who live only for the approval of others remain forever weak because their worth is borrowed. How many people stay in toxic relationships, convincing themselves that abuse is love? How many chase likes, comments, and digital applause, mistaking this shallow validation for proof they matter? You know the emptiness that comes after. You refresh the screen. You replay their words in your head. And still, the void returns. This is not love. This is a dependency. It is a weakness dressed as connection. Imagine someone who has built their identity entirely on the opinions of others. One day, the applause stops. The partner leaves. The friends drift away. Suddenly, they are nothing because they never had a self to begin with. That collapse is inevitable for anyone who builds their life on false love. Nietzsche challenged us to strip away this illusion, to love oneself, to respect oneself, to stand alone if necessary. This is where strength is born. The herd cannot give it to you. The crowd cannot sustain it. Only by breaking from false love do you find the soil where real love can grow. And so the illusions begin to crumble. False comfort rots into boredom. False love rots into desperation. False strength dissolves the moment pressure arrives. If all your courage depends on the approval of others, if all your peace depends on your routine, then you do not possess strength. You only rent it. Nietzsche calls you to witness this collapse, not to humiliate you, but to free you. When the masks fall, when the illusions burn away, you see yourself clearly. Fragile, yes, but finally honest. And from honesty, real power can rise. The comfort that numbs you is the chain that binds you. Break it, and you begin to live. The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely. Jung's words cut deeper than any blade because they reveal why you suffer. You think your weakness is random, a flaw of personality, a bad twist of fate. But the truth is darker. Your wounds make your choices long before you are aware of them. The shadow does not shout. It whispers, and you obey without knowing why. Picture a puppet dangling on strings. Its arms twitch, its legs move, but none of it comes from its own will. This is how unexamined wounds control you. A child abandoned grows into an adult who clings desperately to anyone who shows affection. A boy humiliated learns to stay silent, avoiding risk, mistaking fear for humility. A girl shamed for speaking her truth grows into a woman who apologizes for existing. These are not conscious decisions. They are invisible strings tied to old pain, guiding you into the same patterns again and again. You think you choose, but you are chosen by your wound. Nietzsche demanded something ruthless, amor fati, the love of one's fate. To embrace life as it is, not as you wish it to be. But how can you love your fate when your shadow is choosing it for you? This is why he spoke of the will to power, not as domination of others, but mastery over yourself. Unless you confront the hidden wound, it will write your destiny in silence. You will mistake submission for peace, distraction for joy, weakness for kindness. And all the while, your life will be decided not by you, but by the part of you refuse to face. The wound that is denied becomes the master. Imagine standing before a mirror that does not reflect your face, but your shadow. You see not the mask you present to the world, but the rage you bury, the grief you suppress, the desires you call unworthy. At first, the sight was unbearable. You want to turn away, to deny it, to say, "This is not me." But it is you. The parts you reject are the very ones shaping you in silence. Jung warned that until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. This mirror moment is where terror and liberation meet, because once you dare to see the wound, you can choose. Most people never. Look, they live their entire lives as shadows of themselves, replaying their parents' pain, repeating the same betrayals, sabotaging their own potential. They curse fate without realizing it was never fate. It was their wound, pulling the strings. But you have a chance to break the pattern, to cut the strings, to reclaim the stage of your life and move by your own will. You cannot erase the shadow. You cannot destroy the wound, but you can face it, own it, and transform it. What once enslaved, you can become your fuel. What once whispered chains into your ear can become the voice that drives you forward. The shadow is not the enemy, it is the doorway. Your wound is not your master, it is the mirror. Face it, and you choose your life. When I look inside myself, I see something which is not myself. Jung's haunting confession echoes the moment your identity begins to collapse. You thought you knew who you were. You wore the masks, spoke the lines, lived the story you were given. But then, the illusions crack. The image shatters. You realize the self you clung to was never yours. It was weakness wearing a crown, a hollow statue mistaken for strength. And now it lies in ruins. Picture a grand monument, sculpted in stone, admired by the crowd. On the outside, majestic. On the inside, hollow. One storm, one blow of reality, and the statue fractures. Dust and shards scatter across the ground. This is what happens when your identity rests on false foundations. The moment the truth arrives, the mask crumbles, and with it, the illusion of certainty. You feel disoriented, as though standing in a house of shattered glass. Every reflection is broken, every piece sharp. You see fragments of yourself, but no whole. The collapse feels like death, but it is only the death of the lie. Nietzsche warned, he who fights with monsters should be careful lest he thereby become a monster. And if you gaze long into the abyss also gazes into you. To stare into the abyss is to face this collapse without escape. You look into nothingness and realize that the self you thought was solid was only a story stitched together by fear, comfort, and approval. The abyss terrifies you because it is silent. It offers no answers, no hand to hold, only your reflection in infinite darkness. But Nietzsche's abyss is not despair, it is the passage. To fall into it is to fall out of illusion. To survive it is to be reborn. This collapse is raw. It strips you bare. No applause, no roles, no shield of identity. Just you trembling in the ruins. You feel vulnerable, exposed, almost broken. The emotions hit like waves. Grief, rage, shame, loneliness. You want to run, to rebuild the mask, to crawl back into comfort. But if you endure, if you let the storm break you, something deeper emerges. Jung saw this collapse as necessary. The ego must fall apart so the true self can rise. Your identity is torn to pieces because the false one must die before the real one can live. This is the low point, the night of the soul. The place where you feel abandoned by everything familiar. Yet it is here in the ashes that transformation waits. You cannot rebuild old life. You cannot tape the mask back together. But you can stand, wounded and stripped, and begin again with truth. This collapse does not end you, it frees you. Let the false self shatter. From the ruins, the real you will rise. What we call fate is mostly the shadow of ourselves. Jung's words expose the lie you've been telling yourself. You believed weakness was love. You thought avoiding conflict was peace. You convinced yourself that pleasing others was kindness, that staying small was safe. But weakness was never protection. It was self-betrayal dressed in comforting words. Every false narrative you held on to was a chain. You told yourself, if I don't speak, I won't be rejected. But silence only made you invisible. You said, if I settle, I'll be safe. But settling only imprisoned you in boredom and resentment. You thought clinging to someone who hurt you was loyalty, but it was fear of standing alone. Weakness never saved you. It only delayed the pain, multiplying it in silence. Like a prison cell decorated with soft pillows, it fooled you into believing you were free. But the truth is harsher. Weakness was the enemy you mistook for a friend. Nietzsche's demand was simple yet merciless. Become who you are, not who others expect you to be. Not the mask you've worn to avoid rejection. Not the watered-down version of yourself made to fit inside fragile approval. To become who you are meant to burn down every illusion of borrowed worth. It means standing without applause, without comfort, without the safety net of false love. You cannot grow while hiding. You cannot rise while clinging. The command is brutal. Stand alone until the ground beneath your feet is truly yours. Only then will love be real, because it will not be built on fear. And so pain becomes your teacher. You once saw pain as proof you had failed, but look again. Pain shows you are alive. Pain is the scar that says, here you were wounded, here you survived, here you grew. Without it, you would never have questioned the lies, never sought the truth, never broken the chains. Pain is not your enemy. It is the forge. Every betrayal, every collapse, every moment of despair was hammer and fire, shaping you into steel. Weakness never loved you, but pain always taught you. It was never love that kept you weak, it was fear. Let pain teach you, and let strength set you free. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. Jung's warning becomes your doorway now. You have stared into collapse, felt your identity crumble. But here begins the transformation. Meeting the shadow is not destruction, it is integration. It is the fire that forges you into something unbreakable. Your darkest impulses are not proof that you are evil or broken. They are unclaimed parts of your soul. The rage you deny holds the energy to protect your boundaries. The envy you suppress carries the desire to grow. The fear you bury contains the instinct to survive. When you confront them, when you say, yes, this too is me, the fragments merge. You are no longer split. You are whole. Weakness dissolves because what once pulled you apart now fuels your strength. Facing the shadow is terrifying, yes, but it is the only path to power. You stop running. You stop pretending. You carry the storm instead of fearing it. Nietzsche gave this vision a name. The Übermensch. Not a tyrant, not a god, but a human being who has transcended weakness. The Übermensch is one who no longer bows to herd approval, who no longer hides behind illusions, who no longer pretends to be small. In modern life, this is the person who takes full responsibility for themselves, not blaming, not waiting, not clinging. It is the one who rises after failure, who creates instead of imitates, who shapes their own values rather than inheriting them blindly. To live this way is not arrogance. It is self-mastery. It is resilience in a world that constantly tempts you to stay weak. And now, discipline becomes your armor. Discipline is not punishment. It is freedom in its highest form. Each act of self-control is a shield. Each moment of clarity is a sword. Every choice to endure instead of escape forges strength from your wounds. Imagine your shadow as molten metal. Pain, rage, envy, despair, melted down in the furnace of honesty. Now imagine yourself hammering it into shape, forging armor that no insult, no rejection, no failure can pierce. Your shadow, once an enemy, becomes your protector. The very place you were wounded becomes the place you stand invincible. Integrate your shadow, forge your armor, become the master of yourself. Freedom is nothing else but a chance to be better. Albert Camus' words mirror the truth you now hold in your hands. Strength is not found once and kept forever. It is a decision made daily against the pull of weakness. Every morning you stand at a crossroads. One path leads back into comfort, into distraction, into the slow rot of surrender. The other path leads into courage. The choice is small, yet absolute. When you stop feeding weakness, it starves. When you stop excusing it, it dies. Strength does not arrive like lightning. It builds brick by brick, decision by decision. And every choice becomes a vote for the person you are becoming. This is why 23 minutes can change everything. In less than half an hour, you can decide to shift the direction of your life. It does not take years of waiting or someone else's permission. Transformation begins the moment you stop lying to yourself. Right here, right now, as you listen, you hold the power to cut the chain. Imagine the difference between one who hesitates, waiting for tomorrow, and one who acts, choosing today. The gap between them is not talent, not luck, not destiny. It is a decision. You can choose now to carry strength as your weapon. You can choose now to step into life awake, instead of sleepwalking through it. And what is the reward of this choice? It is not comfortable. It is not an easy road. The reward is peace, but not the fragile peace of avoidance. Real peace is earned, not given. It is the calm of the warrior who has faced storms and survived. It is the serenity of one who has descended into chaos, wrestled with their shadow, and emerged whole. Nietzsche's voice is clear. Peace is not escape. It is conquest. It is the unshakable stillness of one who has been tested and cannot be moved. This is the peace that belongs to you when you choose courage over weakness, truth over illusion, strength over surrender. Peace is not found by hiding from chaos. It is forged by walking through it and standing unbroken.